Hi everybody, my name is Ormsby. I'm going to be talking to you guys about design tonight, which is kind of fitting. I'm assuming that you're on the design trade, and that's probably why you're here. I just realised, I just want to say, I just went to the bathroom with my microphone on. So I'm slightly concerned if you do hear this later on recorded, that hopefully will be edited out. Alright. It's a quick start, isn't it? Alright, before we go any further, I should probably tell you who the hell I am and why on earth you'd be listening to me. I am doing my PhD in design right now, and I've been cooking it for about 3 years. I think my supervisor, or one of them who's here looking at me from over there, would like to have it done by now, but I'm still getting there. It's a big job. But I'm taking my time because I want to do it really, really well. And I've decided that instead of pushing it out just so you can call me a doctor, I'd actually rather do something that's significant, be able to share it with everyone. That's the whole plan. Alright, so I've been in the print game for 25 years. I got my graphic design degree from Curtin many, many moons ago. It was in design school at the time. I've been in graphic design now for over 18 years. I'm starting to show how old I am, aren't I? I've been a lecturer at ECU for 12 years and now left. And now I'm a lecturer at Murdoch for over 5 years and had a great time down there. Alright, so why are we here today? Well, clearly you love design. I'm assuming that's the case. Hands up in the room who loves design. Thanks very much. Alright, so we all know that it's significant. We know, right? I think one of our biggest issues, I'm going to hit this out of the park straight away, is that other people don't. So we're going to start talking about that straight away. Our visual communications are powerful, and they can include human changes in behaviour, which is pretty scary stuff when you think about it. We can make people do all kinds of weird things if we want. If we're using it for good, that's the main thing we should be doing. So it's no doubt that what we do has influenced the world as we know it to be. We have contributed to incredible things, such as traffic signage. I'm sure you guys have seen things like this before. I recently went and did a conference in Bath in England at the beginning of last year, and I turned up my phone and decided to use the signage on the road instead. I told a whole room of people that when I actually got to Bath, and they were horrified. But the signage was remarkable, and I didn't need my phone, and it was quite nice to turn the damn thing off. And so clearly it works really well. So there's other examples I've got there. You know, medicinal packaging is really quite significant. And of course we're walking around with those phones all the time. I just said I turned the phone off, but obviously that's been designed with a lot to do with those things inside your phone that we use all day, every day. But we've also contributed to making a big mess of things. And I don't want to give you bad news, but I think you already know this. We have contributed to masses of landfill over the years. Consumerism is mostly to blame for that. We are linked to that in a huge way. Tim Brown of IDEO, I'm sure you guys all heard of IDEO, right? Okay, yeah. If you don't, IDEO is one of the biggest design firms in the world. I say biggest, I think they're the most influential, probably a better term to use. And one of the reasons that Tim Brown, who's he's the CEO, believes is why we're linked to this kind of, being underutilized is our link with consumerism, especially in the 80s when it all became about selling things and just buying stuff that possibly we don't even really need. So branded products, if you go home and look in your cupboard in your pantry, you know what I'm talking about, right? It's just stuffing that stuff into the bin non-stop. Alright, so the skills that we've used to create these graphic design outcomes are often overlooked because of this. And the acknowledgement of the value in what we do has been lost a little bit. I don't know how you guys feel about that, whether you're feeling that yourselves or not. I know I am. I have been feeling it for a really long time. I didn't know that that's what it was. My research has helped me find that out. So in fact, it's gotten so bad that I've actually heard a few people in the last few months, which has really worried me, say that graphic design is dead. I just want to point out that's not true. I don't think that's true. I wouldn't be standing here if that was true. So, I'd be invisible, right? I wouldn't even be here. And I think the issue is coming from the fact that people are quite torn about using that term graphic design because it is linked to those things. And it doesn't appear to have any value. It does have value. I'm going to go through why it does. I think one of the issues that we've got is that we've just forgotten how important it is. And we need to work out how to get that back. So I'm going to talk about how it's not dead. It's just in a state of flux. Alright, so the reasons for our loss of recognition, they're much more complex than just saying we're linked to things that get thrown away. My research explored these complexities. and how an introduction of new design techniques to existing graphic design practices can bring light to the value of graphic design methods in wider project kind of contexts. So the specialised skills that we use to make graphic designs can extend to much broader community-based and business problems. You guys might have already been kind of tapping into this. Hopefully we'll talk about that in a bit. So this approach can bring unique design results to broad societal and commercial issues, and an expansion of graphic design services in this way is often underutilised though, particularly here. Now, I've heard for years, I've heard people say this non-stop, that Perth is behind. Do you guys think that? Yeah. You kind of feel that, right? It's okay if you do. I've been around the planet, been to a lot of places, and the first conversation I tend to have is that because I feel like I'm from a backwater, so I'll say, oh, I'm from Perth, we don't really know. But I found that this is actually happening everywhere. This isn't just us. And in fact, when people are designing in different spaces and calling it something else, they're still kind of unsure about what it is that they're doing or why they're doing it, which is why it's great to get out there and have a chat and find out. We're not a backwater, by the way. In fact, because we are so nubile and fresh, we can make big changes. And that's what I'm hoping we're going to be able to do together. All right, so the change is necessary. We have to change because we're also faced with issues like template artwork, aren't we? People can get this stuff easily that we're possibly capable of doing. And international online options such as cheap websites and apps and things, I think you can get logos for $50 from Russia and all kinds of stuff. I feel sorry for those designers, it's just awful. So it's kind of diminishing our livelihood, but I don't think that's what we do anyway. I don't think we just make those things just like that. But we have been told we do that, or we believe we've been doing that, and that's one of our biggest issues. So if all we do is make cheap artifacts, then most businesses can get them any way they want from anywhere, and they don't need us at all. And it also adds to their argument that we're not really worth very much. I'm never going to talk about the pay thing, because that's a big one, right? Get paid good dough. You won't get paid good dough, right? Of course you do, because you're valuable. And maybe you're not. Maybe you are. If you are, you're kicking it out of the park, well done. But if you're not, and I believe that's the majority of us, we're not getting paid for what we really should be doing, then we're going to talk about that. I'm just going to point out before I go any further that that discussion isn't being had anywhere. All the stuff I've looked into, all the research I've done, and all the places I've been to, no one's talking about the money anywhere. Kammi brought that up. We'll talk to her about that later. All right, so I'm going to go back a little bit because when I'm not going to bag out Curtin here. And I already said I went to Curtin. I'm not here to do that. I went to school at Curtin a long time ago, so I sound like I'm 100 years old. Maybe I am. Feels like it. All right, so if we go back to my education in design, and the way I started out designing, I did it like this, which was quite lineal. I don't know if you guys can see that from back there, but it was quite lineal. So pretty much I got given a problem at the beginning. And in fact, usually when they got to me, you can see kind of about, state like dot 4 in, the client had already decided what I needed to do for them. They didn't kind of ask me what they needed. They came and said, oh, I need to get this done, please, can you do this? And I go, yeah, sure. And I did it to the best that I could do it. I was really good at it. I still am really good at it. I gave it everything, that's why. And I had lots of satisfied customers. They went away and, came back sometimes. Sometimes they didn't come back because they got what they needed from me, or what they thought they needed from me. So my client work was successful with many satisfied customers. But they didn't know they needed more, and I didn't know they needed more either. But working as a graphic designer, I always had an underlying kind of inkling or feeling. You guys might have this, maybe you don't, I don't know. But I've always felt like I could do a hell of a lot more than I was being asked to do. Do you guys feel that way? That when you're in the middle of working on something, you could do something way bigger than what you're doing? Okay, good. It was just me. It's not just me. All right, so what the hell is service design? Well, this is my research project and what it's all about. This led me to doing research because I was, quite frankly, pissed off. I was pissed off. I was pissed off by how much I was getting paid, how much I was not doing, I guess, and how I felt like I could do so much more, but I wasn't being allowed to do it. But I didn't know how to facilitate it. So I kind of started doing research, and that led me down the garden path, I guess, to where I am now. If you are thinking about doing research, being pissed off is a great start, I have to say. Because God, it made me just get into it like there was no tomorrow. My poor supervisor, I mentioned again, Stu Medley, he had to read this thing. It was way bigger than any honours project should have ever been. So my investigation was into how graphic design practices could be broadened beyond the design of artifacts. So I was already starting to think about how can we crack out of this thing. I applied service design methodology to the practices of up-and-coming graphic designers in Perth. They were students at the time. They let me kind of experiment on them, which was brilliant. We designed an exhibition together. So I first studied how they worked over a period of time, and then I introduced them to a series of methods, new methods, that I discovered, which I was really interested in, which had an overarching ideology of service design. I then watched again for another period of time to see what might happen next, and it was fascinating to watch. I found out these graphic designers could totally adopt new things. I mean, you guys know that because we've been evolving for a long time. We keep changing everything all the time, right? Which is apparently why graphic design's dead, because we've got all these other titles like information architect and some other silly things. Anyway, so they expanded what they were doing. They adopted the new skills. And not only did they do that, they totally kicked ass in that space. They didn't just do the jobs that I thought they were going to do, but they took on other things that I was not expecting them to do. The best thing about it was their role was significant among every stage of the process. They were no longer at the end, which is, I think that's where a lot of us are most of the time. They were right at the beginning, they were right in the middle, they were right at the end, they did the whole thing. They were in every major part. One of the most exciting bits was that their perspective on design completely changed. I even had one student say to me, "You screwed me up, Erica." And I said, "I'm sorry." And she said, "I don't think about designing like that same way anymore. It's enormous now in my brain." And I said, "I'm sorry I did that to you, but it's a good thing, right?" She went, "But it's exhausting." Right, that's a good thing. So it completely changed how they viewed this thing that they were working on, which was really freaking exciting. There was a new lens to look through. All right, so service design, what is it? Who just hands up, who's heard of service design? A few of you, okay, good. As I mentioned to a few people before, I'm quite frightened that by the time I get to the end of my PhD, you all know everything and it'll be completely out of date. I don't think that's the case just yet. So service design is the design of services. It's a multidisciplinary, holistic design approach to create better service experiences for people that use services. It's got many names. So you've probably heard of other names. If you haven't heard of service design, you might have heard of human-centered design, perhaps. Social design is being kicked around Perth quite a lot, quite like that one. Design thinking is definitely wrapped up in what we do. User experience, they kind of think they're slightly different to us, but they're the same. And co-design is another term that's being hurled around the office a lot too, so you might have heard some of those. The point of difference is that it's focused on humans, and service designers use empathetic methods to find out how to better human experiences. In addition, the outcomes, or touch points as they are better known, are developed based on what has been found during initial research, and not necessarily on what a client has asked for. So designing for services isn't new. In fact, the idea, or the ideology of this has been around since Papinek in the 60s. Designing for humans, I think we've all been trying to do that for a long time. I think we just kind of lost our way a little bit, especially through the 80s. It just became about this stuff rather than what we really, really needed. And I don't think we need that much stuff anymore. So we've often been associated with the front end of touch points, such as advertising materials, signage, and not so much the back end, pardon me, not so much the back end. So service design is looking also at the back end as well. So for example, we might be designing something for the front end. McDonald's does it really well. In fact, they've actually nailed this really, really well. They know that coming in and buying a burger is an experience in itself. But working in that place and selling a burger is just as important. So if we've got all those things working together, that becomes a fluid environment for that system to work really, really well. And they're working on that all the time. I shouldn't be bringing up burgers as an example, but it's the first thing that came to mind, so I apologise for that. But you know what I'm saying, right? They're not disconnected. So I think one of the issues as well has been that they have been disconnected for a long time. We haven't seen ourselves in the back end. We've only seen ourselves on the front end of making those things like branding and those kinds of things that we put out there. So we're going to look at bigger things. All right, so during my previous research, I developed this design of how service design works. It's a little complicated, so I'll explain how it works a little bit. I'm still working on this because this is actually from my older research, and this is way too neat, I've decided. Service design is not neat, and at all, and this looks way too neat in the way that it's systemed together. So in service design, it can jump all over the place. Notice that it's not linear, and doesn't even have an end, because I found that design doesn't actually end, it just keeps moving all the time. You're probably experiencing that yourselves. Every moment is connected to the other, and we may need to revisit any moment at any given time. That's the nice part about it. There's not a point where you get to where you think, oh, I can't go back there and do more research now, it's too late. That's never going to happen. And if you're thinking that way, we're in trouble because that research will help us make something even better, so we don't want to be thinking that way. In particular, we've got dark blue dots in there, which are the multiple disciplines. So I did talk about a multidisciplinary environment. And on top of that, we've got light blue dots, which are the people that we're designing for. And they're right in there as well. I found that what's most important about service design is that it's a way of thinking and not so much about a bunch of steps. It's a consideration of a much bigger picture, a human-focused picture. So what connects to what and how? Therefore, if we're designing from a service design perspective, it's impossible to make an artifact for a client without investigating whether it's the right artifact, how it connects to the other artifacts, and more importantly, do we even need that artifact to start with? This is where those students went, what are you doing to me? What are you doing this to me for? I just want to make nice stuff. I said, I get it, me too. But we've got to make the right stuff. Alright, so if graphic designers, then I thought, this is where I got to my PhD, because one research project clearly wasn't enough. I was hungry to change more things. Also, service design is talked about in big contexts a lot, so when I was doing my research, when I was looking to service design, they talk about it in terms of big hospital structures or government, policy, trying to look at homelessness, which are, all remarkable ways to use it. But I thought, I can't necessarily get up and, move to Africa and, help clean water there. I've got 2 kids at home, I can't do that. And I thought, does that mean I'm defunct? There must be a way that I thought that I can bring this to me. Can't I do that? So that's how I ended up here. Again, I wasn't pissed off as much, but I had something just chewing at me that I had to sort out. So that's how I got here. So then I thought, okay, so graphic design could adapt to fit to a large-scale service design project, such as in my previous research, and it was quite successful, and also documented in international service design publications. Surely we could adapt our own practices to bring this holistic style into what we do, into smaller scale stuff. And I think if you guys are in the room with me, you're probably, I say small, I don't mean small as in it's not worth anything, because it actually is. It's worth a lot, even though it may seem like it's small. If you're not working for Google, that's okay. Who cares? No offense to Google, but I don't care about Google. I'd rather be fixing something in my local town that's going to make my life better, my kids' life, and the people that I love, and everyone around me, and you guys. That's important too, right? So that's what I assume that most of you are probably in this space, probably working on things like that. That doesn't actually make it small, actually. It just means it's not, I don't know, it doesn't have some big glamorous title, perhaps. We'll work out a title for that later. So is it possible then, I thought, to use service design methods for small commercial projects and ship local design practices, studios and freelancers beyond the design of artifacts? Could the significance of graphic design be refound using a grassroots approach such as this? And you can see my quote there. Can it really make a difference instead of just making stuff? I know it sounds a bit Hollywood. I'm a bit Hollywood. I can't help it. All right, so I've got a very glamorous view of the world. I want it to be better. I do. All right, so my PhD looked at how to explore the expansion of these graphic design skills among local industry. My thesis explores service design methods beyond large-scale service design systems that have been previously discussed by international authors. Don't not look at that because that's really fascinating stuff. But I just also want you to look at this, what we're doing too. So I wanted to do both. I've been doing both. So my research investigated service design methodology for small commercial design jobs in Perth, and I wanted to see what was possible for designers like me, and for you guys as well, I guess. So I looked at 2 case studies. I worked with 2 studios that had decided to research, and I chose them because of the way that they worked, because they were different. I wanted to look at different ways of working, and look, I've got to say, after talking to so many studios, no one works the same anyway, so I think I could have chosen any 2 different studios and they would have been different anyway, and that's actually quite a good thing because we're unique in what we do. This was so I could explore effects over varying kinds of spaces to see what would happen. So Studio 1 was larger than Studio 2. It provided a range of design services. I haven't actually mentioned the studios. I'm not sure if I'm going to. Should I? One of the studios is here, the other one's not, so that kind of feels like it's a bit off kilter. Not sure. I'll think about that. All right, go on. Look, you're trying to egg me into it. Don't peer pressure, please. All right, so one was bigger than the other, which was good to see the difference. It provided a range of studio services such as branding, for example, but focused more on delivering digital outcomes such as websites. Studio 2 was similar, or a smaller studio, but it also provided a range of services similar to Studio 1, but focus more on social media campaigns and social media support. So I studied how these studios work for about 3 to 6 months. I think it took way longer than that, didn't it, Kammi? It's hard to pin them down, man. They're so busy all the time, which was good. It did go on longer than we thought, but that was okay. It was kind of interesting too. And then I introduced some new methods to them and studied them again for a period of 6 months. It sounds a bit stalkery, but it worked really well. I'll explain what I did. Okay, so I did a lot of stuff, because I don't tend to do anything small, I found out. I had multiple research sources, including interviewing, observation, photographs, written documents, my own design experience. So using my own perspective to understand what the hell was happening when something happened. That's really useful, actually. Previous completed research, so I was kind of drawing on what I learned before in that honours thesis. Obviously case studies, I've just mentioned that, content analysis and practice-led, which is where I was trying to feed them some stuff. I'm just going to say too, I was very worried about going into these spaces because I didn't want to walk in there like I knew everything. You know, that was a really hard thing for me to do. I didn't want to walk in there and go, you don't know what you're doing, let me show you some new stuff. It's really rude for a start. And two, I don't know everything. I'm finding out these things as well. So I was kind of testing. They were like guinea pigs, and I was so excited when they wanted to come on. In fact, I was shocked at how excited they were that they wanted to play with me, and we had a good time actually, I think, which was good. We all learnt a lot, which was really exciting as well. So I don't want you guys to think at any point I'm telling you how to do something. This is just sharing of stuff, really. All right, so I interviewed the volunteers, who were very keen, which was great, during the course of the first study period. I then interviewed these poor buggers again at the end, to see if there's any difference. I've also interviewed many people around town as well to see how they feel about design in Perth and what the design culture's like. That was really fascinating, talking to different people about how they felt we sat, especially people that are coming in from international spaces that have started working here. They've got a very different view of what we might have of our kind of, you know, backwatery way of looking at things. That wasn't the case. That didn't seem to be coming up at all with them, which was kind of nice. All right, so before I started my research, I was prepared for anything and everything. And my supervisor, who I'm going to give him all the shit tonight, I think, he told me that if it didn't work out like I wanted, it would be all right. I didn't like that idea. I wanted everything to change. I wanted something dramatic to happen. I wanted to know that if I did this, that it was going to work and I was going to change the whole design culture in Perth all by myself. Like I was going to really shift something because I wanted that to happen. But it's true. It's true with research. If it doesn't turn out like you want, it's not because it didn't turn out like you want, it's because you've tested something out and the outcomes weren't as you expected, but you found something out in doing that. But I'm pleased to say that didn't happen. All right, so I was worried as well that one or two of these studios might already be using these methods. Perhaps I was going to walk in there and not tell them anything new. Perhaps they were already doing it and just calling it something else. That did worry me, that could be happening. Although that kind of excited me too. I was hoping that might be the case. And if they weren't using them, once I introduced them, they may not be able to take them on. That really did worry me, that maybe I was looking at something that was way too big and trying to force it into something that's way too small. So these methods have not been constructed for this environment. They weren't. They were made for a much bigger space with a lot more people involved and a lot more time to work on these things. I don't know if any of you has worked on social projects. Any hands up anyone's worked on social projects or any service design stuff? Okay, a couple. They're big and they're meaty, and they are exhausting and they are hard. They're very different. I'm not saying what we do isn't hard, it is, but once you start getting into this, it's just, yeah, as Kammi will explain later. They're hard. All right, so what we started with, well, I'm going to start with the methods that I've used for these guys and what I introduced to them. And then at the end of the session, I'm going to get these guys, I'm going to talk to them a bit about what happened. I'm going to tell you what I found out. They're going to share, or Kammi's here from one of the studios, she's going to share what she thought. We've also got Jarrad here as well. He's from a different studio, you probably know him. He's going to talk about, you know, how he works as well. We can all have that kind of nice discussion together. So I'm going to go through the methods, starting with this one. One of the biggest issues that we may have, and I mentioned this before, is that when clients come at us, they might ask us for something. Now, when I first started doing this job, I just made them what they wanted. I'm not saying I wasn't doing a good job, like I mentioned before, I was. And if you're doing that, you're not doing it wrong. It's quite all right, because you want to make them something great, and usually you do. But I actually always found, even when I did that, there was something bigger going on. I could feel it. There was something bigger, and I wasn't sure whether to tell them or not. So the first stage is to redefine what the hell the problem is. Redefining the problem can usually show clients what is really wrong, and we just need to show them what that is. A lot of the time, they might not know it. And that's all right. we've got to be careful how we tread there, because we don't want to say, ha, you didn't know, but I've worked it out. That's not a good way to approach this, by the way. No Nelson from The Simpsons, that's bad. All right, so for example, one of the projects I had a few years ago when I was working with a student was, she was working on a football club, and she was trying to work out, she was asked to design a website and I think some kind of campaign for them. And so she went, yeah, we can do that, but can we look at why you want that? And they said, well, we want new members. But when she started researching, she found out that they weren't just needing new members, they were actually losing existing members. That completely changed everything they were working on, because instead of just making something to draw new people in, she had to work out why those people were leaving. So that then took a whole different turn and required a whole different campaign that was needed. So this is where design thinking is very useful. So we are pretty good at this because this is how we already think. And you guys have heard the term design thinking? I know you've heard that, that's being thrown around like a frisbee a lot now, right? Everyone's a design thinker apparently. I'm just going to share this. We're in a safe space if we can talk about this here between us. We do it the best. Because we're designers, for crying out loud. It's what we do. We're not like everybody else. You probably noticed that, right? I asked a group of marketing students last week, any of you got friends with designers? And they went, yeah. And I said, what are they like? And they went, they're a bit weird, aren't they? And I went, yeah, they are. Someone said, they're on the spectrum. I went, well, I'm a bit careful how we term these things, but yeah, we're a little different. That works to our advantage. That's a good thing, by the way. We see things that other people don't see, and that's to our advantage. That's actually where design thinking came from. It came from us. So big business are using it, sure, but it came from how we think. And you guys already have that, which is you're ready to roll, you just don't know. So this is where design thinking is useful. So thinking outside the box in creative ways can reveal project issues, which can often be overlooked. Look, research helps. In fact, research is key to this. But being able to think and when you're looking at something, when you're researching, and be thinking outside the box while you're doing that is critical as well. So a big issue right from the start is that if this is a new process, then your client possibly hasn't agreed to pay for the new stages that you're asking them to pay for. And that's a pretty big thing to ask them for. You don't know me, I don't know you, you've asked me for a website, but I'm going to go and spend 3 months researching. See ya. Oh, by the way, can I have $45,000? Probably not. All right, so how do you convince them that it's the right way to go? We're going to talk about this together because I don't have all the answers. I want to help, and these guys are going to help out this as well, and we're going to talk about this more at the end, but I want you to think and chew on these things a bit while I'm going through this stuff. So how are we going to convince them that's the right way to go when they've come at you asking for a particular thing? How do you convince them that they need to pay you for hours and hours of exploration into their project problem, especially when they probably think they've already identified it? And that's usually the case, I think. They probably think they already know what the problem is, which is, normal, I guess. So you might be taking a risk here by commencing into research that may not be fruitful, that a client possibly rejects and refuses to pay for. So what I'm suggesting, I guess, is you might have to go on a limb here and just start cracking open this without even them knowing about it or even them coming on board with it just yet. But I have to let you know that you are taking a risk every time you're designing something for a client without doing this. Because you're possibly making something that isn't going to last very long, or making something that isn't going to have the desired effect that you want it to. It's not your fault, you haven't done the research to know why that is, because it's not in the process just yet. So the upside of this risk is that we can come back at them and we can say, look, here's what we found. You don't have to head this way. You'd be dumb not to. You can't use the word dumb, but you know what I mean. Like, we can phrase it in a nice way and say, look, this is what I found. I would suggest we do this. Now, you guys may already be doing that. I know that there's a term design strategy that's been kicking around for a few years as well. Well, that's a way to be doing this. But I think that's still being wrapped in with pitching as well. I'm going to talk about why we're going to get away from pitching, because I think that's problematic. I think pitching is problematic. All right, so once we've got the research go ahead, and hopefully, look, I've got to say, every time I've done this, I haven't had anybody say no. Because who's going to say no when you turn around and say, look, I can make this thing, I don't know if that's going to work, but look, I found this out. I need a little more time here to really find out what's going on. And when this has happened, a lot of the time the client's gone, that's funny, because this has come up before, and we've been looking into this, but we didn't know how to, and well, I can help you with that. And that's when you start working together. So it becomes, not so much a client and you on your own, it becomes a connected thing. All right, so once we get the research go ahead, which It may not be massive, it might be small to start with, but we can inch our way in through the door, I guess. We've got to start looking at ethnographic data or empathetic data gathering. We can't find out what people need if we don't find out what the hell they are or how the hell they think or what they care about. So gaining empathy means trying to understand what is or what it might be like to be someone else. We can look from afar and think we already know that. And I think as a designer I was kind of doing that thinking, oh, I know what those people are like. I was trying that to my best ability, but I wasn't doing it well enough because I wasn't really finding that out. I was kind of guessing. So we need to find out how might someone else feel, hear, see or do when they experience a product or service environment. Interviews are a great starting point for this, to find this kind of information out. So asking questions brings rich data. We can look online and we can find all kinds of things, but that's not enough. We can't possibly know how someone feels if we don't talk to them. There's no way of finding that out unless we actually talk to them. So it's key. I try and keep it really informal. As you can probably guess already, I'm really good at just talking a lot. You know, I hear that a lot. I think my brother-in-law told me that when I go to the beach, I get shushed at the beach, even there. Can't even hit me with a wave. I did slap him when he said that. All right, so it does come naturally to me to talk to people. That can be hard for some people. So if you've got friends and family, just think about how you talk to them. We just want to talk to people, that's all this is. We have it too formal. People don't want to talk. You might have found that. If you are doing any kind of ethnographic research and interviewing, who's done interviewing before? Hands up, anybody? A few, yeah. It can be really stunted, depending on who you're talking to. And when we talk about the social sector, we could be talking about people who are at risk or have been harmed, abused. They're not going to talk to you, just like some guy in the pub might. So we've got to think about a strategy around that. So keeping it informal can help. We've got to avoid kind of yes and no answers. And instead of asking yes and no questions, you can ask them how do they feel? How did you find out about this thing? What do you think about it? Was it confusing? Would you revisit this service? If so, why not? And you can say, yeah, me neither. It was crap, right? That gets them on board with you as well, sharing that. All right, so the trick is to poke and draw out the information, being friendly, sharing your own experiences. I do that with my students. I don't see myself as different from them, so I share straight away that I'm learning too all the time. I don't know everything. It makes them feel at ease. There's no difference between us. And that lets them share things with me that I can share things with them. We learn together. We're an interviewer, but we're also human, so we need to think about that in that way, that there is no difference. All right, so gaining a better understanding of something is also experiencing yourself, if you can. Now this can be really difficult, again in the social sector this can be quite hard, but even getting out there to where these things are occurring are really important. You can't possibly design something unless you've experienced it or have inside nitty knowledge about what's going on in there. We can't possibly do that. So how long will this take? It depends on the product or service that you're studying. We don't know. This may take some time, as experiences are not the same every time. And they definitely vary. You may need to experience it many times over different times of the day. For example, if you were talking about a streetscape, I know that at night, Fremantle High Street is very different to the daytime. And it's also different depending on what day of the week it is. As a Fremantle person, I don't tend to go down there on Saturday night. I stay the hell away from it, because I know a lot from those experiences. All right, on a side note, I'd just like to interject here and ask you all to be careful when taking on processes such as design sprints. Now, I noticed I've just said that we need to kind of take our time in things. Design sprints are in the cook a lot now too. Now, I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying be careful. I think they can be good when you're trying to ideate, but I don't think they're good when you're trying to pump out an answer to something in a short period of time. I actually don't think we should be doing that. I think that's problematic. Really good design comes from researching and thinking and sharing and listening and reflecting, and we need that time. We need it. I don't know about you guys, I know that I design something, I look at it and go to bed, and I think, I've nailed that. The next morning I get up and go, what on earth is this crap that I made yesterday? You probably all do that, right? I know I do it all the time. Like, I'm shocked. I almost emailed that to a client. Oh my God. Oh my God, I came to my senses. This is sleep on it, there we go. All right, so we need time. We need time to find out things, we need time to reflect, and we also need time to get to know the environment that we're working on. So that's just a little, again, I'm not telling you what to do, I'm just saying, just be careful there. All right, so experiencing, oh sorry, we've gone backwards. Let's not go backwards. All right, working with the client, this is the big one. All right, so I don't know how you guys are working with clients. Hopefully I'll have a chat to you when this is all finished. I think when I was working with clients, there was kind of a distance between us, and that was professional, I thought, at the time. Some clients, especially with our family, friends, whatever, I already had that rapport because I already knew who they were. I would always work better with them. I just did because I knew them. You know, they could give me a bit of stick, I gave them stick. You know, if things weren't working as I'd like, I'll face it up and say, I need more time on this. And they go, oh, fine. But when I was working at a distance from clients and trying to be professional, I found that the work was still fine, but I felt that there was a real distance between us, and I didn't feel I could share the things I really wanted to share with them. So we're talking about co-designing here. I know a few of you have put your hand up when I said, have you done this before? Again, it's a funny term that's being thrown around. A design studio in Melbourne that I went to visit told me that people in Melbourne are calling co-designing just when they're having a meeting. Or meet you at 2 o'clock for lunch, yeah, we'll have a co-design session. That's not co-designing. People are laughing about that, of course. Well, it was kind of silly, actually. All right, so we've got to get more intimate with our clients and their business. So working together during early consultations will build a trust between you and your client. Now, you probably already know that. The first couple of meetings can be a bit stiff in the pants, and then after that it becomes easier and easier as you go on. I guess I'm suggesting that you completely knock down the door. This is just the beginning of the co-design process. This isn't just meetings, but sessions where the client shares their thoughts and feelings about what they already know and about what you're finding out. What makes service design successful is when people work together to create things. When we work individually, we only get a small insight and a small design frame is what we're working in. So more people make for better design. You might have found that when you work with more designers, man, you make great stuff. I know I do. I work better than these other people. We just kind of really, just things start flying all over the place. So we've got to break down the barrier between us and the client. We need to stop seeing them as a client, I think. Because they're not really clients, are they? They're just human beings like we are. Sometimes this happens naturally. I find with some clients, they want to do that already, and some don't, and it can take some time. We're all just people, we all need to kind of share these things and how they might work. So breaking down that barrier really makes a big difference. You also might need to extend co-designing process with more disciplines than just the client themselves. So it could be extra staff inside that space. It could be if you're working on a local project, for example, like City of Fremantle. I'm going to bring that up just because I live down there. I know if I was working with the City of Fremantle, which I've done before, I tend to work with city councillors, and I work with people that work in the shops down there, and I work with the people that live down there, and I work with just anyone, people that are visiting. I talk to everyone just so that we can get and then we bring them in together because they've all got really valuable things to share. I'm not going to play this, but if you do want to play this on your own later on, it's a really nice little video that I show my students. It's really cute actually, but it's very cutesy. But it really explains this really simply, which is what this is all about. It should be broken into nice simple stages. All right, so we do need to work with people that will use the thing as well. This is really vital. Trying to design for people without actually working with them, we're guessing. And probably making stuff that's going to be defunct. You don't want design that's defunct, and neither do I, and neither do they. They want it to be great. I know that you guys have experienced design that's not great before. You probably point it out and go, what is that? I do that all the time. I go, how did that even happen? And I'm stunned by it. I'm just like, how did that turn up there like that? Who paid for that? And it's because that system's missing. That's why they're thinking. I mean, it sounds like I'm taking the piss out of people's work. I'm not, but I am shocked when design is so disconnected from who might possibly touch it. I just don't know how it got there. I don't know how it got there. All right, so bringing people in who'll use it will help. They are important as well. There's a few reasons for this. They've got a unique perspective that we just don't have. We just don't have it, and we can't expect to know everything. We're going to take that ego out, kick it, chuck it in the bin. We don't need that. Ego is a complete waste of time. Hasn't helped anyone at any point, apart from Iggy Pop. Can't think of anybody else. All right, so we need to find out how they're experiencing these things. They give us powerful insights. We're not designing in the dark then. We know what the hell we can do because we've heard it from the mouth, straight there. It's not guesswork anymore. And there's less risk on our part. We don't have to kind of, the client, you're going to make this thing work, right, Erica? All right, so these people are also the ones who use it. So crying out loud, we need to talk to them, right? Because they're going to be the ones who are using it. I mean, I used a bathroom in the city ages ago in a restaurant, and I couldn't work out how to use the tap. I was in there for 15 minutes. It was really embarrassing. And I came out, and this girl came in after me, And I said to her, you have to just like wave your hands like a magic wand around this thing, and then it'll appear like a genie out of the bottle, you know. And she came out and said, thank you so much for telling me that, because I would not work that out. She came to my table to tell me that. All right, so we can't assume to know the people that will use these things. We don't want to design the shit out of it. I've heard that term a lot lately, quite lightly. Design the shit out of it. We can design the shit out of it, but we need to do that when we know what the hell we're designing for. And then when we can find that out is to find out who is going to be using this thing. So we bring them in too. We bring them in as well. So market research and digital data is just not enough. It's really not enough. In fact, these techniques are great, but they only scratch the surface. We really need to find out how people feel. And if they contribute to something, then something really great happens. If you start working with people who are going to use this thing, they start owning it. That makes a natural sustainability occur. What I'm talking about is once you've made this thing, if you've had someone else around you that's going to be using this thing and they've been using it, they start talking like it's theirs, because it is. And then they start sharing that and how proud they are of it with their other, you know, in primary school when you made those things, you're so proud of that stuff, and your parents were proud of you because it was, oh crap, let's face it, but they kept it because they loved you. It's the same kind of thing. The City of Fremantle about a year ago or 2 years ago did this beautiful thing when they put out this call for stories. They wanted to know stories about our lives as, you know, residents of Fremantle, because they wanted people to know, because I think Fremantle started getting a bad rap, you know, for being a bit rough and tumble, you know, whatever. And so they put this call out for the stories so that we could, you know, reconnect as a community. So they put this call out, and people kind of said, yeah, this is what's happened to me, this is what's happened to me, and I love Fremantle because of this. But then they didn't just do that, and then said, how do you want us to share your stories? And we went, oh. And some people say, well, can we put them on the ground? That would be neat. What about the shop windows? Can we put them on the bus? Can we like have, maybe the bus drivers can, you know, do little voiceovers while they're great freaking ideas, you know, great ideas. And those things were sustainable. Those stories are still going on down there. That process is still cooking down there, because that's 2 years ago. Because those people who contributed, they were part of it. And it became this big chatting thing. I've got dinner parties talking about it. You know, it brought people together. And I thought, this is madness. Why aren't we doing this everywhere? So I keep having these experiences like this. All right, so custom journey maps. I'm sure you've seen this one, because this has also been kicked around a lot. This isn't just a tool that you have to use. You don't have to use it if you don't want to. In fact, any of these things I'm talking about, you don't have to do any of this if you don't want. Journey maps is kind of neat for explaining things to the client. Actually, I quite like this bit, because it helps to explain to them what's happening. But at the same time, it helps you as a designer to understand all the possible moments that people could get on board with this experience. For example, you guys have probably all been on an aeroplane. That's quite a long-winded service experience, isn't it? From the minute you buy that ticket. But even before you bought that ticket, it's, you know, hearing. I asked a bunch of marketing students on Friday about this. What made you buy a ticket? And someone said, safety. And I went, wow, I didn't even think of that one. But that's totally true. You wouldn't get on a dodgy airplane. And then someone said, money. I went, yeah, money, death. Money, death. And you weigh it up a little, don't you? You do. It's bad. But we talked about all those things that you know, made us choose that aircraft. Word of mouth was a big one. The nattering is huge. What people tell you, oh, don't get on the airline, man, it was bad. It was bad. It was like, you know, World War II on that thing, don't get on there. You know, and I've actually not chosen airlines for that reason. So this helps us to map out things. It makes it easier for us as well to understand, you know, how people can possibly enter the service experience, because we also, again, could be assuming the only way they're going to get onto this is through social media. I think it's younger people, I think I'm out of that realm now, but younger people tend to kind of go, oh, it'll be on Instagram, it'll be a Facebook connection, and possibly it is for them, but for us older folk, not so much. Word of mouth is a big one for me. In fact, I'm trying to get off Facebook as much as I can. So we're now looking at the service experience and how we've interacted with it from multiple ways. Now, this might be that we come at this from several different journeys too. I think a lot of the time I've seen this done, there's always one that, and I think, well, I could have come at that in 20 other ways too. How come that hasn't been done there? It's almost like they're assuming that's the only way you can do it, and I don't think that's the case. In fact, I know it's not, because when I talk to different people, you get different results. So when I'm doing this, I tend to do as many as I can and go, wow, we really need to have a campaign here where people talk to people. Or we need to have something that there's a smell or something that we can get people, because interactions aren't just, you know, visual, are they? They're smells as well, aren't they? You can hear them. Apple does that, doesn't they? You turn their computer on and they like reward you for it. Ta-da! Aren't you clever? You turned it on. That's because I made the button so damn hard to find, isn't it? All right. So watching someone having a negative example to an experience, for example, that's a really nice one. I've never seen that in a journey map before, but I've thought about that. Like when you're in a food environment and watching someone go, ugh, I'm going, right, I'm not ordering that. I'm out. Like that's never mentioned. So people watching, that's a big one. That's not mentioned a lot of the time. So there's lots of ways to look at this. I think when we do this, we have to really think about, we can do this ourselves. Think about how we experience things when we're looking at these kinds of spaces, and it helps us to do that. It's also good for explaining to the client what might happen and what could be needed. All right, and then of course once we've done all that research, it's a hell of a lot of work, right? It is. But once we get there, the neatest part about it is you feel more sure about what you're going to make. In fact, you don't feel more sure, you just feel sure. You feel so sure about it because you've got all the research down now. You just know, this is what I've got to do. There's no more, am I? It's just, you just know, and that's the best part. You feel more confident. And so does the client because they're working with you, which is great for them as well. So once extended research has been achieved, you can then map it out, and this is where we nail it. A lot of the time in the service design context, people say that this is what our job is. That shits me because I think, no, I'm great in researching too. I'm great at the journey mapping, I'm great at talking to people, I'm great at, I don't want to just be doing this bit. You know, you've probably also heard this as well, do you want to be a designer down there? Don't you want to be up there talking to the CEOs? Not all the time, I don't, no. Because I don't want to be stuck in a boardroom, I like making stuff. I want to be there to hear the critical things I need and share them, but I want to be in all the stages, and I think that's one of the bits that I'm having a little bit of a trouble with, so I keep hearing that this is the moment where we're supposed to be doing everything. And we can, because we do it really well, but we can do all of this as well. So, all right, so we can use graphic design techniques that we know. I mean, it can be information graphics if you like doing those. It can be sketches. It can be whatever you like. And in fact, if you are mapping this out, sketches are nice because you're not taking it too far, in which means that the client or whoever else is around the table go, oh, but what if I do that? I mean, people start drawing when you're drawing, sometimes you can get a bit precious, don't touch that. But if it's kind of rough, it can be nice because it makes it more open to people to make some more suggestions. Remember, just because we've got here doesn't mean we've nailed what we're going to make and that's the end. We're still open to shifting and changing. This method will also help you shift away from pitching. Now, I don't know how many of you guys have to pitch. I hate pitching. I hate it. It's very much like a Mad Men environment, isn't it? Sometimes I feel like I have to get the client drunk just like those guys on Mad Men, just to get them away so I don't have to worry about this. So I don't have the pressure of that pitching stuff. Are they going to go for it? Are they going to like it? What's the strategy to make them like it? That's insane, isn't it? Like there's so much pressure on us to get that through. We don't have to do that anymore. If we do this, you can pretty much walk out of the room. Say, here, read that. I'll be back. I'm going to get a donut from across the room. Leave them to it. Leave them to have a good read. Or sit there and explain it. That would be better. Explain this thing. But my point is, you don't have to pitch. You don't have to convince them of anything. Because if you've done the research really well, and if they've been on board, they know already that's the best bit about this. If you've had them with you the whole time, they already know. You don't have to convince them of anything and try and draw blood out of them at all. They just know. So it's more like, let's no longer call it pitching, let's just call it clarifying where we're at. That's probably what this is. And this is what this is basically at this stage. We're visualising, we're organising the data so we all know where to go next. It's clear to everyone, which is usually how it's used. All right, and I think that's one of our largest issues. So data speaks for a little bit. I've mentioned digital data before. Things like, we're being asked to measure a lot. Things like website data is being used a lot, market research data. But it's only a little bit, it's not enough, doesn't kind of explain everything. When we map this all out and do this, we can add that digital data in with this and bolster that, but it's not really enough. Digital data, for example, will tell you that 25,000 people will click on a website link, and it will tell you that 40,000 people didn't, but it won't tell you why. And that's the critical bit that's missing out of that. And that's why this way of working is, it'll pick that up, it'll pick up the difference. All right, prototyping, we're pretty good at this as well. You probably know what prototyping is. Again, we need to bring in those other people at this point. Don't do this on your own. Don't sit there prototyping by yourself. Do some if you like. Get the client in there, get them with you. Give them a pen for crying out loud. That's okay. These are rough at this stage. Let them be in there with you. Don't get too precious. Get people who are going to be working, or using this thing in there as well. It'll help you not have all that responsibility too. That's a big thing. We're going to talk about that in a minute. So this testing should be done on potential people that will use it, as well as the clients. This will help to alleviate any issues that may have been overlooked. They'll see things that you don't see. That's a good thing. You want them to see them. That testing is really important. And if you have to go back and do more research, don't be frightened of that. Don't go, oh God, no. No, don't say that. I'm not going back there doing that. Yes, please do that, because you go back and do a bit more research, you find out more stuff. Oh God, thank God, we were so close. We were so close, but now we know this. Even better. We don't need to be working in isolation. This is bad. Working in isolation is bad for us. Not only do we get lonely, I know I do, we don't design to our best ability. So more people around us, more stakeholders in this, will make for better design outcomes. Co-designing everything, multidisciplinary systems, keep them rolling at all times doing this. So even when you're ideating, do the same. This keeps that sense of ownership cooking as well, because they've really contributed to those things. And don't be scared. I mean, you guys probably aren't. I think when I first started again, it was really isolated, the way that I was taught to work. I wasn't supposed to show the client sketches. It was more like at the end. You guys are probably already showing them those kinds of things. And it's a really good thing to do, show them when it's really basic, because then you know that you've gone in the right direction. If you're not, you can change it and not have to worry about getting too stuck down the road. All right, implementation is our favourite bit. I know about you guys. All that research stuff sounds really boring, right? And it's not boring, it's actually kind of exciting, but I love making stuff. That's why I got into this game. I mean, you're probably the same as me, I think. We've probably all got art degrees in our background. Yeah, because we wanted to be in that room with all those smelly pens and nice paper and be making nice things. Me too, that's why this is the best bit. That's why I don't want to be in a boardroom all the time. I don't want to be doing that. Or working on getting money out of people all the time. I don't want to be doing that some of the time, but not all the time. All right, so this isn't the end of the project, by the way. It's like another part of the cycle. So if you remember that diagram I showed you before, we just keep going around and around. This is the beginning of the next cycle. So what came with implementation? Were there unforeseen issues? Probably, and that's okay, that's normal. Are they now recognisable now that we've implemented? Should we go and talk to some more people? Yeah, go and interview again. Go and talk to people, find out what they think. Were there areas that were not as successful and require more focus? There's always bettering, definitely. So these questions have to be asked of stakeholders and the people that are going to be using it, because this can make us better the situation. It's ongoing. So this data again can be visually presented. Be wary. Now this is something that's critical for us right now. This is being talked about a lot. Be wary of clients asking you to measure what you're making. We're being told that we have to measure how well this thing's going to work. Have you guys experienced this before? Is this thing going to work? Why, how much? How much profit will I make? How well is it going to work? Will it succeed every time? That's a bit rough, I think, to ask us that. I mean, quite frankly, we can design a really great beer bottle, but if the beer is crap, that's not my problem. I didn't do that. I'm not saying beer is crap, but you know what I'm saying. The responsibility isn't all on us. So be careful, and you don't have to take that on. So there's a lot of talk around this right now. It seems as though the level of success of projects is being shifted solely onto us. It shouldn't be. In fact, if you engage in co-design, everybody will share that responsibility. It'll come naturally. Everyone will feel that shift. It won't just be us. So we won't feel that kind of, we've got to get this thing right. Everybody feels that feeling, and it's good. When you get to service starting to bigger social projects, the responsibility really does ramp up. When if we're talking about, working with kids at risk, or trying to help the health system, or change policy in government, I mean, that's where it's at. That's a huge amount of responsibility to take on, and we can't be, responsible for all of that. We shouldn't be. And in addition, some results take years to find that out. So I guess what's really important here is to focus on bettering the human experience and not focus on the measuring. And if we share that with the client and they see what we do, then we don't have to worry about that so much. Okay, so now you want to know what I found out, right? It's kind of why you're here, isn't it? I'm going to have a drink first before I share that. All right. I'm going to start with a basic summary. I'm not going to go into really detailed, because I made you listen for quite a while already. Man, I told you I could talk now. Alright, so firstly I discovered that 2 studios in my study were already exploring ways to gain more significance. And I suspect that all of you are doing that all the time, trying to work out ways to get some kind of better grounding. They too were frustrated with the difference between what we were capable of and what we're being asked to do. Yes, they were just like me and feeling undervalued. So many designers across Perth and the world are feeling this, it's not just here. Studio One was branching into social design sector, which I mentioned a little bit before, and they were feeling there was more significance for designers in this area of work rather than in the commercial sector. I think that's because the commercial sector make it harder for us to do that. It's almost like they're trying to do it on their own without us. I think that we need to re-educate there, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Studio 2 is expanding into marketing and offering clients long-term design strategies. And they were still pitching, but they were looking at strategies as a way. So still trying to convince the client that's the right way to go. Both studios were taking risks and leaping into entrepreneurial ventures to evolve as designers. So they were already trying to do something new. All right, so, hold on a second. I can't think of this moment, so I'll just carry on. What I did find out, and which was really interesting, is that every design studio that I work with, and every design studio that I talked to, or every designer that I spoke to along the way during the process, their eyes widened when I brought this up. Their eyes got bigger. The designers themselves, when they started thinking about this differently, couldn't go back, and everything changed. And that was kind of neat. I think one of the biggest worries that the studios were having was how are they going to move into this space? How are we going to convince clients to do that? How are we going to convince business to shift? How are we going to re-educate them, basically? That's what we have to do, isn't it? I think some of the processes I've mentioned, will help to get that rolling. We are going to have to teach them what we do. And it may be that we take some risk in doing that. It may be that you go out and start doing research that you haven't been asked to do. But like I said, usually when that happens, they don't turn away from it because they would be crazy not to. Or be crazy if they did turn away from it. The studios themselves were very, very keen to take on all the things that I gave them, I offered them. These methods, by the way, they're not strict, kind of precise. I haven't given you technical ways to make them happen, have I? They're more like an ideology, and that's how you need to think about it. It's a way of working rather than a bunch of steps. A lot of business are trying to make it a stepping stone environment. Design thinking courses are doing that. Do this, 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 and this, you're a design thinker. Well done, this is a certificate, off you go. It's easy now. That's not true. So if you don't look at it like that, that'll help. If you think about everything that you're working on as being really important, and if you're not working for Google, who cares? If you're working on something really small, it's actually not that small. If you're working locally, that's actually really great because you're making a big impact in a small space that will eventually ripple into making an impact in a bigger space. And that's really freaking vital for what we're doing. I'm going to hit these guys with some questions now, if that's all right. You guys have to get up here because the microphone's stuck to this thing. Yeah. Come here. And then you guys can ask questions as well, and then we'll have a bit of a sharing of thoughts on this, if you like. So I want to ask these guys, I've been talking to them a bit already, so they've got a heads up. It's not cold turkey, thank God. But in particular, I'm going to ask Kammi first, how her studio has been evolving. Now, I've been working with Kammi on Studio Mars, and Jarrad, who's from Juicebox, he wasn't one of the studios in my study, but I have been talking to him. He can't get rid of me now. It's all good, apparently. All right, so Kammi, I want to ask you firstly, how's your studio evolving to enhance the significance in what you do? And have there been issues with how you're evolving? I know that you've been evolving because you've been sharing it with me. So I'm going to ask you how you've been doing that, and what are the issues with that, and how you're overcoming them, or are you overcoming them? Okay, come, share.
So how have we been changing? I guess I reckon we've been doing this for about 3 to 5 years now. And a lot of it is to do, well, for me personally, a lot of it was to do with the fact that I've been involved in lots and lots of social change projects over a long period of time, over like a 20-year period. And I was frustrated to see them not work. And I think the process of seeing them not work made me go, I think I know, over and over I slowly learned about why they were not working. And I think a lot of that was to do with the fact that they put designers down at the bottom. There was a big problem. Lots of people went through heaps of processes trying to figure out how to solve that problem, and then often we'd go through a competitive tender process and we would be down the very bottom, and that would be very price sensitive, and then we would really have not a lot of say around what was to be solved in there. So yeah, for me personally, it was about going, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to be down the bottom at the end of a tunnel where I feel that it won't have an impact. So the reframing was about trying to make sure that we were a part of the conversation in terms of what was the problem and what were the solutions. So that when people came, we weren't just doing what we were told. And often some of the time when people just came and said, I just want you to make that website, that's easy money, it's an easy gig, but it's not going to work. So that's really what started to change that process. The challenge with that is all of that stuff that Erica talked about in terms of design thinking. It's all really great, and it has all of those effects in terms of partnering with clients and solving problems properly. The problem in a commercial sense is that when you run a studio, money is the challenging piece in there because people don't pay you to do that piece. So I think we have been trying to work out how to roll those stages in and still remain viable. And again, all of that stuff that Erica talked about in terms of when you do all of that research and you do partner with people and you do talk about it in that way, I've had the same, I've never had anyone disagree with that. It's just that that whole piece is a very expensive piece. So I guess some of the ways that, we are running projects now where we just front end it and say, this is the piece that you have to do. And I think the more and more we do it, the more comfortable people are at going, okay, yep. But the other thing that has been going on a lot is on a lot of those bigger social change projects, I now work at the front end for a long time with clients, and that can be anywhere from 6 months to 2-3 years to help them to design the project budget to be enough to actually have a crack at solving those issues. And that's the biggest piece, is actually working with clients at that front end to make them understand what's involved. So I hope that that isn't the way it is for the rest of time. I hope that as the design industry changes and we start to embed this stuff in earlier on, that it will just, people will come with that expectation. But at the moment, I would say it's only a handful of clients who come with the expectation that they have to pay us to do that piece.
And I think the social guys, they already know, don't they?
They do. I've never had an issue convincing people of it. It's just the bucket of work which is involved in front ending is enormous, and it's often way bigger than what we actually make at the end. By the time, if you've done that piece in terms of getting people to imagine the budget that's required, and then the piece of work which is all of the research, once we actually get to making it, this tiny little piece at the end.
I just wanted to point out as well, I should have said this before, service design came to be as well. It's forming because, and that term has been, as Kammi and I were talking about before the session, that there's many different terms. But service design has come to be because the problems are just too damn big, and they needed something different than the way that we've been working. And I really should have said that before. I'm very ginger these days with using the term solution, and I know that that's been something that we've been told that we are. I know that I was told that I was a problem solver, and I'm making solutions. But when it comes to service design, some of the problems are so big that they're actually not solvable. Things like public transport, for example, the population's only going to get bigger. It's going to continue to grow unless there's an apocalypse. So in which case, that problem's not going to go away. We're not going to solve that by making something in the next 12 months. I think instead now, I think when I was in Melbourne working with a design studio, I won't say who they are actually because I'm bagging them out a little bit in a minute. They, not bagging them out, but it was something that they did that I was like, what? But they were saying that they have the same problem, that clients come up to them, and this guy was talking about solutions, and I said, but you can't possibly be coming up with solutions. I said, because it sounds like it's finished. It's never finished, is it? And he went, no. And I said, so what if we called it situation bettering? And he went, I'm going to use that. And I said, you can take it, it's yours, just have it. But the reason I'm too scared to use that term now as well, because it sounds like that with that measuring thing. Doesn't it sound like when we say we're solving something, there we go, we solved it. And the client goes, no, you didn't, I'm not paying you. I'm not paying you what I said I was going to pay. Or you didn't solve it in the way that I thought. We talked about that being interpretive before, and that is totally interpretive. So I think I'm not saying you shouldn't use it. I'm just saying I've just moved away from it because it worries me. Because it makes it sound like we're the only one. We're moving into bigger problems, bigger strategy and bigger design scope. Then us calling ourselves problem solvers that's a big problem for us. Because we can't solve some of those problems. And I think it's okay, once a client works that out, and if they're working on something that's bigger, this is with the social sector, they're so desperate. It sounds awful, but the social sector are so desperate because they know their systems aren't working. This is why they're open to bigger things. And they don't mind that it's not going to be solved because they already know. The health system, for example, that's a mess. And there's a long way before that gets sorted. I'm not going to say solved. So I think I have been moving away from the term solving, and it might help you, and it's just advice, but it might help you to stop clients thinking that you're the be-all and end-all and that they can measure and then put all the onus on you, I guess, when a project is working. And that's Jarrad, do you want to talk about what you're doing in terms of shifting and evolving? Because you guys are doing that all the time as well, right?
Yeah, so I guess just a bit of insight. We've been around 10 years now, and we have a vivacious appetite for self-improvement. And when we started out, one of the things you sort of mentioned in your talk was that we like to create great things, and we also wanted to make sure that everything we're doing was not only the best it can be, but also that it had impact. How good can this possibly be, and how can it actually work for our clients? So over the years, we started just asking those questions, right? And so when you interviewed me around this process, we're sort of doing it, like we're sort of introspective in the way that we work, and that we just improve on process. Like we don't have anything set in stone. If it can be done better, we'll do it, and we ask for improvement from everyone.
Yeah.
And it has sort of evolved to the point where you talk about being performance driven, right? And we really are. Like our work, we get out of bed to inspire and to have impact for not only people but businesses and communities, right? So that's why we do what we do. But we set a baseline for performance. So it's not, we're going to get you X amount of leads. It's like, let's review where you're at now. What is the current state of play? If we're talking digital, where are the leads coming from? Is it from Facebook, LinkedIn? Are you getting print adverts that people are calling up from? So just understanding what the metrics are, and that gives us that sort of baseline to work from in terms of a strategy to say, okay, well, we can, like you said, make it better. It's not a direct target, but it's to say, like once, let's say 3 months after we actually release something, are we improving on that? It's not enough to just release something into the world. So you have to actually improve it. So our process is strategy-led across all of our engagements. It's not as extensive as, say, like 3-year front-end engagements, but we'd like to get to that point.
Like to get there,
there is a commercial reality with the work that we do, so that is a really a strong point within the industry, is that we went to an event at a co-working space in the city a while ago, and there was a lot of people that were enterprise in-house talking about design thinking. And my question to them was, that's all well and good, you've got all these massive budgets, how do you actually price this in the local market? So for us, it's about making sure that the client is aware of the process, and you can have like a fixed cost around that, right? So okay, this is, you put your toe in the water, we'll actually do some exercises and some workshopping, prototyping, we'll come up with a solution or a potential solution from that, and here's the cost for that, right? So that's just one of the processes that we're employing at the moment. It's the only one. But again, we just we iterate ourselves and try and do better with everything.
Yeah, you're just shifting and changing. And can I just point out as well, when I say terms like service design, I'm certainly not an expert. And people in service design, like I mentioned, the ego needs to go out the door. They don't have an ego. And in fact, they'll say, we don't know what we're doing. We're just working this out as we go. We're still trying to work out how to... There's no fixed process for this. It's just a way of thinking about something. So there's no set ways, and everyone's doing it differently, and that's totally fine. I think Kammi and I were talking about if we can get the terms down at least, that would be nice. But I don't even know if we're even going to get that, because I think the terms get like design thinking, someone grabs it and runs, and we're doomed. But I think everyone's just pretty much stabbing around in the dark and trying to do this as well as they can. And I found that on an international stage. Every conference I went to in America and England, Italy, it didn't matter where I went, everyone was doing the same thing. We don't really know what we're doing, but we know we're doing something. And that felt really nice, and that was great. And I think that research stuff at the beginning, I think the difference between a lot of service design projects and projects when a client comes at you with something is that you don't even know what you're going to be making. In fact, you're not even sure if you're even going to have any artifacts that comes out of it, because you might need to retrain staff instead. A studio that I worked with in Melbourne, who I mentioned before, they were great, by the way. I was so happy to be there and did a great job with them. My beef with them, I know I have a little beef because I can't put a funny face, was that we were still at the end of the process a little bit there. And the graphic designers in that space, they were pissed off. They shared that with me. And I thought, well, they're going to have it nailed over there, but they didn't. And I thought, well, it's the same. But they had a situation where they were working on some campaign, some car hire company came in and said, you know, we need you to redesign this online form for us because this website area is not working. And they're kind of like, we don't really do that, but we'll take a look at it. They had a good look at it and said, you need to retrain your staff. The online form is problematic, sure, but the way that you're actually functioning in your system internally is not working. And they were obviously more eloquent in the way they said that to the client, but they had the client in there and the client worked it out. They saw, they could see, and then by then they were like, oh wow, we've got to change everything. Just turn the table upside down and start again, pretty much. So it can be like that, it can be a little scary, and I think even when clients come in, we're going to have to re-educate them because they do come in, they want to know that safety that we're going to get this thing, it's going to be all right, you're going to give it to me and I can go off and do my job. But it might not be like that at the beginning, so we have to work out a way to get them on board with it so that it's not so scary and not so frightening. And that'll take some time to do that. What do you see what's going to happen in Perth in design in the next 5 years? Can you foresee anything? Or what would you like to happen, Jarrad?
Well, I'm very digital
You are very
oriented.
digital.
We are a full service creative digital agency, but my background is very much digital. So from a technological standpoint, I think things are changing very rapidly. I think things are being driven very much around crafting the experience.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we actually do some mapping you talked about. Actually figure out what the touch points are and how do you create these sort of moments of delight. Like, rather than thinking of things as like a widget off a shelf and say, okay, this is a website. Well, is it? You know.
Yeah.
So we're looking at ways to change that. And we think that's kind of where the market is going. There's a lot of competition now in the digital space with these sort of, you know, page builders, you know, Squarespace and whatnot. And even we're seeing inquiry around that increasing. So how do you differentiate yourself from something where that's been commoditized, right?
Yeah.
Which will happen, I think, within the next 5 years. It's around this sort of stuff. It's being a better strategist and being a better thinker where, you know, a client might come to you and say, oh, I just need a website and, you know, you can bash that in Squarespace, you know, that's like nothing, whatever, just do it.
Yeah.
But, well, hang on, what is the real problem and how do we actually improve on what you're trying to do? So I think all designers, I guess in the next 5 years in the local space would be, I'd probably recommend being better in that space, understanding how to strategize, understanding the different ways in which you can provide a result, rather than just change my language, come to a solution.
You can use the word solutions too.
Yeah, rather than just just trying to create things.
It's funny, like I was saying, with these students on Friday, they were a marketing bunch and they were looking at those things, they were looking at our website and this and that. And I kind of said to them, is it a website? What experience are you looking at? And they were kind of like, what do you mean? I said, well, is it a space, for example, that you want people to come online and join as a community to share something, like a football event, for example? Or is it a space that you go shopping online and feel not so bad as a human for buying, you know, things online, like Cotton On, I know, for example, you know, they kind of give you some kind of rewards. You know, if you buy from us, we'll give some money to charity and you can buy this, and makes you feel not so evil as a human for being so consumerist. You know, I think that's the whole plan. So those two online spaces are completely different from each other, and they have a completely different purpose. So using that term websites, that's the difference, I guess, trying to nutshell what they're customising.
Yeah, we're in the same boat as a client will ask for a website. What is that?
What do you want? Yeah, what do you
common
want?
request is how much does it cost for a site?
Yeah. How do you answer that?
I don't know. You know, there's a huge amount of questions that need to go into actually costing something like that out. And even if it is a site, you know, if for a client that's very lead driven, you know, and they're you know, after a lot of sales, maybe it's not a site, maybe it's a series of landing pages that are marketed out through Facebook and LinkedIn. Yeah. Completely different strategy, right?
Yeah,
so yeah, it's very dependent on what the actual needs are.
Yeah, definitely. Kammi, what do you want in the next 5 years? She wants a lot of things.
So I guess one of the main things in there is that I see, and having worked with designers over a long period of time, that for designers to get to the point where they're just really good designers, like they're really exceptional at what they do and they can do it at a speed that makes it commercially viable, that's like 10 years experience to get people to the point where they're really amazing at the craft. And so that's one thing, but now we've just like massively raised the bar on top of that in terms of our expectations to say we also need them to be able to facilitate workshops and to do strategy and to do research. And so I think if we're going to do that, we also have to increase the pay levels.
Yeah. And I guess, and I think one of the ways to increase the pay levels is to show people what the hell we do. We've been pretty good at hiding that. I think we need to lay it on the table, make it really clear. And the only way for them to really see what we do is get them in there. That's it. Once they see, in fact, I've had that happen quite a bit. People come, oh my God, I had no idea that you did all this. It's like, oh. But that's my fault because I haven't shown them that before. So I kind of now just completely, and it's kind of nice because you can show your vulnerabilities. That's quite all right to share that. That brings people and you work together better in that kind of space. Do you guys have questions about what we've talked about? Do you want to ask these guys anything or ask me anything? Yeah.
I'm just interested to know how much it's our responsibility to educate the client, because typically they're just after the commodity that Jarrad mentioned, and we sort of want to have a different conversation. But typically they perceive us as a service provider or a supplier.
Absolutely.
What is that point that you start thinking, well, I need to change their thinking? Is it when you become good at that conversation?
I reckon you're probably already good at it because you're already designing, so you already know what to do. I think you already know you can do more if you're designing already. So in which case you're ready right now. You just need to show them what's possible. I think, like I was saying before, I'm not asking you to go and do work for nothing because that's really rough. But I'm trying to work out a way to shift this into a space where people know what the hell we do. And the only way we can do that is for them to see. That'll be a good start. Secondly, I think going off and them saying, let them ask you for something. And like Jarrad said, ask away. And then they'll go off and nut something out and come back and say, well, you asked me for this, but I think you kind of need something more like this. And it can start off really carefully like that. We've got to be careful how we articulate it. We don't want to say, look, we know more than you, just give it to me, go. We need to be careful. But it is going to take some time to educate them. It is. And we've got to re-educate ourselves to think differently about what we actually do. We can't just sit around being angry because we don't get paid enough. We actually need to shift that ourselves as well, take the responsibility on.
And I think once you start doing it, you can't go back anyway.
No, you're down the rubber hole then, you're doomed. You are doomed. Was that helpful?
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
So this is more of a discussion for the group, I guess.
Good.
So we all know to be amazing designers, we have to be connected to the people that we're designing for.
Mm-hmm.
The challenge for us is clients pay good money for research. They go to strategic consultants and research teams, and I heard the other week that someone paid $6,500 to do a user test on a website with 6 people. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like,
So you know it's ridiculous. There you go.
It's ridiculous. So we're far removed from this process. How do we, and your PhD's around trying to connect service design methods to smaller agencies, smaller budgets. We're in Perth. The nature of what we do is kind of a smaller scale and a smaller budget. But how do we connect ourselves to the people that we're designing for? How do we, as designers, say that we need to be doing the research? How do we position ourselves?
Well, I guess if you're in a position where you're working for a studio and you're not even making those decisions in the studio, Kammi's running a studio. It depends on the studio that you're in. I would like to think that you could bring that to the table. Do you guys have discussions?
I run a studio, so
it's yours.
But we do a lot of research with vendor, like with partners, metrics and faster courses and all these amazing guys. And what I find is that we're so disconnected from we have to meet people, we have to talk to them, we have to be there ourselves. But our clients enlist them first. And then we come in way too late when they, like you say, they've solved the problem, they know the answer. But we as designers need to be involved
at the beginning. You're going to have to ask them if you can do it. And it's going to be hard. It's hard, and it is hard. I'm asking you to step off the ledge, I know I'm asking some big things here. I'm not, I know it's hard. The only way for it to happen is to give it a crack, and you might get rebuffed.
I think just to the group, to the room.
Has anyone else tried to do this?
Let's, as an industry, position ourselves at the forefront of research and human-centered design. I think as an industry, we have to work together so that we're positioned as the first port of call, not let's call the strategic consultant, let's call Deloitte, let's call EY to give us the management consultancy spin. Let's call the creative agency. I think as an industry we have to do that because
or they can still hire those people, but you connect with them as well and work like that the whole way through. I think you're just going to have to start asking. Has anyone else tried that before? Just asking if you can jump the gun, get further up the ladder? Yeah? How'd that work out?
For me, it was good. They came wanting one thing, and I said, well, you're not ready to have that. You need to go back and start from here. And they listened, and it worked out really well. But yeah, not everyone's like that. Sometimes they'll come and go, no. I need a brochure, and you're like, yeah, that's great. You don't have anything to say in it. Like, and
I'll read that.
And they don't want to listen. They're like, well, I'm not paying you for that. I just want it to look pretty. And you're like, well, that's not really what I do.
And then I guess we get someone like Kammi said that sometimes just making the crap website they want. If that's really what they want, then damn them. You know, at the end of the day, there's only so much we can do. But the guys who want it, they'll come with you. They'll come with you, and they'll be on it. And what will happen is those guys asking for that, you'll weed them out. They'll disappear into the cracks. They'll be gone, and you'll get these clients that you'll have these great partnerships with. And that'll build and keep building and keep building, and then you won't have to worry about those guys anymore. So, but it is a moment of shifting. But yeah, you're going to have to ask questions. You're going to have to ask, can you be at the big table? I mean, it's, you know.
You were right as well. It was people I already knew. So
it helps, right?
They already trusted me, and I already knew them.
Yeah, look,
so,
we are asking a lot when we work with clients to trust us. They don't know us. That's a big ask, isn't it? That's why they want to get that digital research, or they want to get that marketing research done. No offense, they don't know you. I don't know you can do great things. I can tell by your shirt that you're wearing. I love your dress and you do great things. Like I can tell already, like you've got it nailed, you know, but you've got to show them. And if, you know, it could be as well. I say this to students a lot because I teach a lot these days. I'm not designing as much as I'd like now, but I say to them, you know, if you want to show someone something to someone, then go and show them how it would work. Even if it's a job that you're doing that you're unfortunately not getting paid for, but go and show what you can do and say, look at this. Or bring an example in and say, this is what's happening. Other people are doing it. Please let me try this for you. And if you don't like it, no problem. But let me have a crack at it at least. That's a good place to start with, I think. Don't beg, because that must be sad. But you know, just ask. The conversation is definitely kicking. It's going on out there, and I think, you know, look, I'm going to mention Stu again, who I can still see him sitting poor thing. He looks tired now. I'm talking too long. He said to me, he's a designer who's been Stu, put your hand up, do me a favour. There we go. He's just been designing for eons longer than me, and he basically told me that he's always had great clients like that. They're the ones that you know really well, and you can work with them. You can almost ask them to do anything, and they'll go, sure, because you've got to know them. So I think that's the key, is getting to know those guys and putting yourself out there.
I think one thing for that as well is that money kind of talks. So they have a budget to spend, and they want you to build the shiny thing. First thing is that you need to do is have a conversation around impact. It's like, why are we doing this? And if we build this shiny thing, is it going to be a waste of money?
Yeah.
Do you work in an organisation where they're going to be looking at you for performance? So if that's the case, and we don't have a full picture and we can't deliver the impact, then we're not really going to do it. And to your question, you know, if they want the brochure, that they don't really want to think about it, well, they're not really the right client. To be honest, there's Fiverr, there's a million other services they can do, they can go to to get it cheaper. You just have to try and educate them, and if they're not interested, well, that's fine. You don't want them as a client long term anyway.
Jarrad, you also brought up something really fascinating a few weeks ago when we had a chat, and we were talking about the money thing. Like, you know, we're asking clients to spend a lot more money. That's what we're asking for, isn't it? To spend a shitload more money with us. But you said, you know, it's fascinating because they'll say, I've only got a budget of blah, 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 10 grand or so. And then all of a sudden you say, well, if you do that, we'll only make this, and this isn't really going to work. But if we do this, you're going to get this. Oh, actually, you know, I think we could get some more dough from somewhere. It's fascinating, isn't it? How come that just happened? I remember when we were talking to me, your mum, and I think Isabel, who brought that up as well, you know, the money thing's a big one, and it is. But you don't have to design the whole world in 6 months. You can say, look, this isn't something that we have to have all done and neat and packaged by Christmas time, like it's a house for poor builders, like the way that they operate. This could be ongoing. We can do this in stages. We'll do the first stage here, the next stage there. When you've got, look, government works like that because they get, you know, they get money under budget timing. So they can't do things in the way that we like them to do, which is all at once. So you just do it in stages over a period of time. You can get them to then connect with you, keep moving, and we'll do this bit first, and we'll do that bit, then we'll do the next bit, then we'll do the next bit, and it just keeps growing, and you build that partnership that way as well. Does anyone else have any questions? Yeah.
What do you think, or how are we able to differentiate, I guess, the whole design thinking process to clients or frame it differently to like consultancy or digital marketing, but they're already sort of looking at a different scape because they're looking at doing that potentially before they hire designers.
Yeah, they're trying to do it without us.
Yeah,
That's a big issue for us.
frame or differentiate what we do from consultancy or digital marketing.
I guess it's like that question before about, we need to be at the front. We're going to have to say that. And while you're hiring design thinkers, I'm a designer, I already think that way. Just get me in there. That's all you got to say. Let me do it. That's the key to it, isn't it? We've got to somehow convince these guys to let us be up the front.
I don't think it can be convinced, and you've just got to put yourself there.
Yeah, you
can't
gotta
convince them, you kind of actually just got to put yourself there. And that sort of feeds into your question about what should we do as an industry, and a little bit around that one about what do I hope for the next 5 years. I think we need to partner much more strongly with research companies and consulting companies, and almost be much more in that space and positioned to be in that space as well. But the question around how do we convince them before they do that? I've never had any luck at convincing people. The only way I've ever done it is just putting myself there and going, okay.
Run the exercise on yourself. Treat it as a problem.
There
And
you
try
go.
and solve it.
I like that, Jarrad. That's awesome.
Well, it's what we do. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
what kind of work do we want to attract, and how
Yeah.
do we put our own messaging out there? And if the main channel of you getting people is through search, well, then think about SEO and what terms you put on your website and all those sorts of things, so that you rank better, so that you're going to get those inquiries. And then when they call, then you know how to have a conversation. So just think about it a little bit differently, I guess.
Yeah. Are there any other questions? You guys, you've been sitting there a long time. You must be tired now. You're ready for a drink, aren't you? I can tell. All right, I'm going to wrap it real quick. All right, I'm hopefully going to publish this. I don't know how long that's going to take. I'm supposed to have this done by now. Until I have it done. I'm hoping to have my PhD finished in the next year. Hopefully it's less than that. And then I'm going to try and publish this. I'm going to take out all that waffly academic talk so it makes sense to you guys and to me. And to make it more functional, and then I'll speak with AGDA about some way that, letting you guys know it's out there. I hope it helps. That's what the point of me doing this is so I can help. That's what I'm trying to do here. I'm also not plugging a course in any way, shape or form, or what I do. But I'm teaching this because I feel like this is my way to make a difference. This is my way to shift what's going on. So I have put together a course in design thinking, which follows on from my graphic design course. And it's service innovation as well. I'm actually teaching my graphic designers to think this way naturally. So it's going to take some re-educating. So if you want more information about any of those things, please let me know. I just want to thank AGDA for letting me be here. So stoked about sharing this with you guys. I actually really hope that we could do this some more. It's quite nice coming here on a Tuesday night and having a few beers and shooting the shit, isn't it? And talking about what our issues are. I think we don't do that. We don't do that. People don't talk about it, especially when the stuff that's been written. I found that, and I've been bitching about that to my supervisors for 3 years now. They're so sick of hearing it. That they talk a lot in academic literature about when it works. Well, they don't talk a lot about when it doesn't work, and no one shows examples when it doesn't work. And I want to see that stuff because I want to know how to be better from that. And it's not about you making a mistake, it's more about just learning, isn't it? So if we can start sharing this more, it would be better. We'd all educate each other, and our clients will work out how to make this shit happen. Thank you very much. Thanks, guys.
On behalf of AGDA, I want to thank Erica and also our guests Kammi and Jarrad for joining us today and going through all that research. It was really, really interesting. I hope you all enjoyed it. And if you'd like to hang around, have a drink downstairs at the bar, you can bring your drinks back up here as well and have a chat, and let's start talking about design.